Hi, everyone. I think we're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and say hello and welcome to the GMAT Club application walkthrough. My name is Kathleen Edwards. I'm representing Emory University's Goizueta Business School in Atlanta, Georgia, which is a little bit rainy today, but normally a beautiful place to be. And I'm excited to tell you some tips, some advice on going through the application process for our full-time MBA programs, which include the traditional 2-year format as well as the 1-year accelerated format. So we'll talk about the whole application process, how you can actually apply to both our 2-year and 1-year program with the same application, be considered for admission and for scholarships at the same time. And GMAT Club has asked me to ask you to like this video. So it would be the first YouTube video that I've ever been in that has been liked. So go for it. Please make me an influencer on a very small scale. But hopefully this video is helpful for you and you are even more excited to apply to Goizueta Business School. So with that, I will jump on in. So these are our application deadlines for fall of 2024. Let me get, there we go. That's correct, showing the whole slide. So these are the application deadlines all for the class that will enroll in 2024. You can see down at the bottom, the start date is different for our 1-year MBA program and our 2-year MBA program. The 1-year program does start in early May, so that's why you'll see the round 3 deadlines are slightly different for the 1-year and 2-year. And then the 2-year program starts in July of 2024. But otherwise, these round deadlines probably look familiar compared to other schools or the general application cycle. And in general terms, the application round that you choose should be the round in which you feel you can present your strongest application. So if you're ready to go for October 4th, round 1, absolutely go ahead and submit that application. If you're ready to submit everything, you've got your recommendations requested, you've got your transcripts ordered, that's fantastic. And then that way you will hear back from us earlier and you will be considered for admission and for scholarship at the same time. If it's too early for you, if your application will be stronger if you wait until January 8th, that's fine too. The rule of thumb for us is that as long as you're applying in round 1 or round 2, you're in great shape for admission and for scholarship consideration. Round 3 is where it gets a little bit trickier. There's just less predictability in the number of seats and the funding available at that time. But in round 1 and round 2, you will get full consideration for admission and for scholarship. And especially for our international students, we recommend applying by round 2 at the latest because of all the pieces that come after admission and moving to the US and the visa process and those sorts of things. So with that in mind, I'm going to aim my comments towards round 1 and round 2, and we're going to talk through kind of the highlights of the application process and what our most common questions are. So as GMAT Club said, please feel free to post questions on the side there in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on that, and we'll be able to answer those as we move through. So this is actually a screenshot of the application. So once you log into our application and create your account, which is a great first step because that will get your journey started, you can save the work that you're doing and come back to it. And with no problem at all. But this is kind of the dashboard for where you're starting your application. And the reason I show you this is that it's very deliberate, the way that we've organized this. You can see the steps that we ask you to go through, all the components of the application, all the information that we're asking for, which is a lot of information. We know that this process is a lot of work and takes a lot of your time, and we appreciate that. But also, it should be helpful for you to ask yourself these questions as you're answering all the questions that Goizueta and your other schools are asking you, because they're important things to be able to answer for yourself and for your school and for your future network, your classmates, and your future employers. So none of this is busy work. All of it is going to be relevant and helpful to the admissions committee. So that said, I mentioned earlier, we do have the full-time 2-year and 1-year programs. The main difference between those two programs is the internship component. The 1-year program is a fantastic fit for candidates who have a significant academic experience in the business or quantitative area and work experience in the field in which they plan to return to likely, or that the pivot that they're trying to make from their pre and post MBA positions is not dependent on the internship. But otherwise, it's very much the same program as the 2-year program, just accelerated into the first summer. So it replaces the internship experience. But the reason I tell you all that is that if you're genuinely interested in both the 2-year and the 1-year program, and you're not sure which is the best fit for you, you can apply to both programs. When you create your application form, you'll be creating the form for either the 2-year or the 1-year program based on your first preference. And then if you would like to also be considered for a second program, this is where you'll be able to indicate that. You're just selecting another program and then giving us a little bit of background onto, especially in terms of career goals, why that could be a good fit for you. So if you're interested in both, apply to both. You'll get 2 admissions decisions, so either admitted, denied, or waitlisted to 2 different programs. But if you're focused, if you know the 2-year is the best fit for you, you know the 1-year is a great fit for you, then you just have to apply to one. But just want you to know you have that option, so you don't have to rule out a program before you know if you're even admitted. So in general terms, the application process is very user-friendly. We examine the user experience every year and update it every summer. So if you have any questions as you move through the application process in terms of these forms that you're submitting, the very detailed components, if we have the documents you've uploaded, you can email us at the MBA application at emory.edu address. We'll be able to answer that. But also you can talk to the myself or any of the other members of the team at our direct email addresses or other general addresses. So, but you can see these are the other components of the application. You'll tell us about your educational journey, so your transcripts, the test requirements, I'll touch on that a little bit, and then your resume, your work experience, your professional recommendations. We have written and video essays, and then the interview if you're invited. So we do require the GMAT or GRE score for all of our full-time MBA candidates. There is a test waiver request process that you can find on our website. That is important to note that it's due, that request is due at least a few weeks before the application deadline so that we have time to review that request beforehand. It's a good fit for candidates who already have a lot of quantitative or business or other academic experience beyond the undergrad. But in general terms, you are required to submit either a GMAT or GRE test, and we are accepting the current format, the new format, all the existing formats right now. English language test score is certainly important if you are coming from a country where school and work is conducted in a language other than English. If you have experience in English, you may not need to take the English language test score. All of that is detailed on the website. So like Goizueta and most schools, we want to give you all the detailed information so you know what to do and how to move forward. So make sure to review our websites in detail. Professional recommendations. I wanted to share this with you because I know this can be a challenge for a lot of people. You're trying to decide who to ask, what makes a good recommendation, all those important questions. You also, I think probably the most important thing is you want to be able to ask someone if they can write a positive letter of recommendation and if they're comfortable writing that and also have the time. So we like to see, we require 2 professional letters of recommendation, typically from current or recent supervisors. But you can, if you're in a situation where you're in a family business or an entrepreneur or you just changed jobs, if you have a unique situation, you could request a recommendation from potentially an indirect supervisor, maybe a peer, but always you can give us some more context to that in your optional essay. So this slide actually will show you, these are the actual questions that are on the Emory recommendation form. So we're very transparent with this. You are not writing your recommendation. We're not that transparent, but these are the questions that will be asked of your recommender so that you have a better idea maybe of who to ask or how to prepare them to fill out the form. Another kind of process tip is that you can go ahead and put in your recommender's contact information in the application form, and it will send them the link to fill out the form while you're still working on the application. So they don't need to write a brand new letter from scratch or wait until you've submitted your application. Go ahead and send them the link to that form so they can be working and moving forward while you're still working on the rest of your application. So that is a good tip to use. The written essays have changed this year. This is something new, and part of it is in response to our favorite topic, AI and ChatGPT, and being able to have answers written for you. So what we've done is de-emphasize the length and the effort on your part to answer these questions. And we've done that by reducing the number. So there are now 2 written essay questions, and we've also shortened the word limit to 200 words each. So that is short. That's really fast. And we want you to give us as much information as possible in those short word limits. So the first question is pretty similar to what it was in the past, but with a little more specificity included in terms of your career goals. So it's, what is your immediate post-MBA career goal? What will success look like for you at graduation? And we want you to do your research, know why you want to go to business school, really be ready to talk about what your career will look like at graduation, and be able to tell us that specifically. This doesn't mean that it can't change while you're in business school. This also doesn't mean that you should tell us what you think we want to hear or what you think sounds good. Genuinely, what do you want to be doing after business school and why? And make sure that you're able to refer to specific examples that demonstrate that you've done the research into what post-MBA positions are, and what companies hire MBA graduates to do. So that's how you're going to answer this question successfully. Question number 2 is about Goizueta Business School and why you want to be part of our community. So it's about our core values and how they align with yours, what resonates with you, and what your leadership experience is so far. So we're going to ask you for a personal story of leadership as it relates to our core values. I do want to emphasize that we know that you're early in your career. These programs are designed for early and mid-career candidates. So you're probably not the CEO of a Fortune 500 firm. So you're not a leader in that sense, and that's perfectly fine. So even if you're not in a formal manager or leadership role, you still should have some examples of how you've demonstrated leadership behavior. And what that means is that you've influenced outcomes, or you've impacted a situation or the people around you. So it's about influence and impact more than calling the shots. So that's my advice on the second written essay. You also are always going to have the optional essay, and this is a great place to address things that can be positive or maybe that you're worried about. So it could be explaining gaps in work experience if you want to address any academic issues in your transcript or probation or your test score, tell us that you're planning to retake a test. But it also could be a situation where you want to highlight something you're proud of that wasn't really asked about in any other section, or you're not sure where to put that. But you can absolutely do the optional essay, but it is optional. You're not required. Typically about half of applicants submit an optional essay. So there's no significant correlation between admission and the optional essay. We did look at that because I've been asked that, but that is something that you can use to give context to the rest of your application or any other piece of that. The video essay is something that just stresses people out a little bit, so I wanted to address it. The goal of this is to give you a chance to introduce yourself to the committee in an easy conversational way, so that you'll be given a spontaneous question. It will prompt you to talk about something off the top of your head, something probably pretty light, not super intense or super professional. It's about, what's the favorite trip you've been on, or what's the best advice you've received. And the idea is that it's the kind of conversation or small talk you might have in a first interaction with someone. And it's a way for you to meet, to introduce yourself to us. We'll see you, we'll see your personality a little bit. It is an additive component of the application, so it's not going to make or break your application. It's not like it is kind of on the cherry on top of the sundae for us. It's a great additional piece of the application, but there's never been an instance of a fantastic candidate with a bad video essay who wasn't admitted. That's just not how it works. It's just an addition to the application so that we can meet you. And also, I'll tell you that the person who reads your application first will see your video essay, and they're going to be a different person than the one who might be interviewing you later. So this also gives an opportunity for more than one person on the committee to have some face-to-face interaction with you. So the video essay, as I said, is a spontaneous question. You'll be able to think for 30 seconds. You'll have a 60-second chance to record it, and you have 3 attempts to record it, but you'll have a different question each time. So if you don't like your first recording, you'll go to a new question. But all the instructions are included in the system. It's very clear, and it's all through your webcam, through the system, so you don't need to go out and create a video at all. So the last little bit I'll share, and then I'll look at the questions in the chat, are the interviews. So if you're invited to interview after you've applied, you'll receive an invitation via email. Those invitations are sent from very shortly after the deadline to all the way pretty close to the decision release date. So don't worry if you haven't heard, you know, in that first week after the deadline. We're reviewing applications constantly throughout the round and sending out invitations. The majority of our interviews are conducted virtually via Zoom. So you're going to meet with one admissions director, one member of the admissions committee. You'll be talking through your work experience, your resume, and you'll be able to ask questions as well. So that's something to think about too, is what questions you would like to ask. So some general advice: think about what you look like on camera, your business attire, your background, your setting, the sound. Make sure you can be somewhere quiet. Make sure your internet connection is stable as much as you can. But then otherwise, think about it as a job interview, but the job you're applying for is to be an MBA student at Goizueta Business School. And that has a really broad range of qualifications. So we're not looking for just one type. So really, think about what you're bringing to the community and what you're bringing to this role as an MBA student, and how you're going to add to the community, add to the classroom conversation, and how we can partner together for success. So just a little tip: don't ask for feedback on the interview. At the end of the interview, we're not able to do that, but do make sure that you have questions for the interview, whether it's about the community environment, specific programs, but something you can't find on the website already. Make sure that you use that time wisely as well. And have fun in your conversations. We're nice people. I'm one of the committee members. I hope you think I'm fun, at least through this setting. But we all really enjoy what we do. We enjoy meeting you. We enjoy getting to know you better. And so we want you to have a good time in this conversation. Even though it's going to move really quickly, it should be a positive experience for you. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to check the chat and see if there have been any questions added. I believe GMAT Club has been able to post my email address. I'm happy to follow up with you on any questions, and look forward to working with you through your whole application process, whether you're listening to this live right now before round 1, or if you're listening to this later on in the cycle. We are happy to work with you and support you through this process. Thank you for logging in from all over the world. We appreciate that. So our average GMAT for this past few years has been around a 710, 720 in the current scale, those sorts of things. If someone has a lopsided score, that's not necessarily an area of concern. The way we review the test scores is we're going to see the total score first, and then we're also going to look at the 2 section scores primarily. It is common that they're not the same. It's most common that the verbal is higher than the quantitative. But that's, there's not a kind of right or wrong answer to that. In the same way that there's not one perfect score, we have an 80% range that ranges from the 600s up to the high 700s. It's really about the total academic record, which is your test score, in combination with your transcript and your readiness for our academic rigor in the program. So no, you should be focused on giving the test your focus and work and readiness to sit down, time to take it more than once if you need to. Ideally, you'll take it once and knock it out of the park. Excuse me. So ideally, take it more than once. Give yourself that time to take it a second time if you need to. You can always send us all your scores. We would prefer to see all your test scores rather than just one, especially if it's kind of in the middle range or below the average. We'd rather know how many times you've taken it, how much work you've put into the process. That will help us advise you better. But if you feel your score represents your readiness well, then that's the best. That's what we're looking for. That's what you should do. And so that's how you should also decide on whether or not to take the test more than again. So Cody's got a lot of test score questions, which is great. You do need to send your official score report to the application. So we can use the unofficial score report to complete your application if you take it very close to the deadline and you're waiting to send it. We need the official score takes a few days to get to us, but you will need to send the official test score before we can make your official decision. So we cannot release an official admissions decision without an official test score. The good thing too is that you can also submit a new test score after the application deadline. So after you've applied, if you're taking the test again and have new information you want to add to your file, you can send that to us. And that's a great thing to mention in the optional essay, or to email to us and let us know that you're taking the test again. And then that way we can make sure that that new test score is included in the final review of your application. But we do need the official test score to be able to make your official decision. We can't wait until after we've made a decision for that official test score. Transcripts are a little bit different. Your transcripts can be unofficial until you're ready to matriculate, but test scores do need to be official and from the testing service. Okay. So we do require 2 professional recommendation letters. So that's a question if we can submit just one. We require 2 professional letters. If you recently changed jobs or have a unique situation, you could have one from your current organization and one from a previous organization. They should both be relatively recent, meaning I think if it's more than 3 or 5 years, we're going to be a little curious as to why it's been that long, that sort of thing. But if you're in a difficult situation where you're not sure who to ask, or you don't have a second person to ask, you can email us. We can kind of brainstorm with you, or if you want to make sure the person you're asking is appropriate, we can try to let you know. But we do require 2 professional recommendation letters. We don't need an academic letter because essentially if we're seeing your transcript, we're seeing your grades, which are partly going to be a referral letter from your professors, unless it was some sort of student employment and you were working and being managed by a professor. That would be a professional recommendation. But I hope that helps. Okay. We've got a few more minutes. I'm trying to think of some good advice. We have several different opportunities to receive an application fee waiver. Probably the most relevant for this group is going to be the Getting It Done 101 application workshop series, which if you're not already tired of my voice, you will get to hear even more of it. We really go through each section of the application and try to be even more transparent, give you tips on the way that we read the application and how to prepare it. But that is offered before each round deadline. And so you can sign up for that series and you'll automatically receive an application fee waiver, which is $175. Other tips, I think, that have helped candidates, you can certainly connect with our current students through our ambassador program, which is available on our website. We would love to host you for a class visit. We're able to offer some of those virtually. And then, of course, we have on-campus events, including class visits, our Women's Weekend, our Diversity Weekend, and then general campus tours and visit days throughout the year. So anytime you can connect with current students and hear from them about their experience at Goizueta and what they're enjoying about the program, that should help you as you go through and answer the application questions and as you think about whether you'd like to be part of our community. So I think I mentioned it in the presentation, but all admitted candidates will be considered for merit scholarship. So as you look at the chart with the application deadlines and the notification dates, you'll be notified of admission and on those decision release dates. And that's also when you'll be notified if you've been awarded a merit scholarship. So there's no separate application. There's nothing else you need to do. We're using your admissions application for a scholarship application as well and reviewing simultaneously. typically more than half of the incoming class receives some level of scholarship award. Those awards can range from 10 and 20% of tuition all the way up to 100% of tuition. So there's a big range there. It's absolutely worth applying in round 1 or round 2 to be considered for scholarship. The largest awards are obviously more selective and competitive. So you'll see average test scores for the large scholarship recipients are going to be well above the average, those sorts of things. But we're using all the same criteria we use in the admissions decision. So your professional experience, your academic background, your fit for Goizueta, we're using those factors in the admissions decision and the scholarship decision. So then in addition to scholarship, financial aid is available through the university for domestic U.S. students as well as international students without a U.S. cosigner. So we understand that finances are a big part of your consideration for the programs and your ultimate enrollment decision. So we are including that in the process early. Don't worry that you have to do something in addition to be considered for scholarships. Okay, so I have work experience of 11 and a half years with an MBA from India. Does Emory accept students with such high experience? Applying for the second 2-year program, applying for the second MBA, is it advisable to go? An additional essay. So I'll kind of make it a little more general. Our average years of work experience for our 2-year program is typically around 5 years. For our 1-year program, it's a little higher. It's about 6 years, but that's more about the overall applicant pool than kind of our criteria. What we're looking for is our candidates who have solid work experience, at least 2 to 3 years, but then that ranges on up to kind of 6, 8 years. More than 10 years is going to be on the high side. So part of what we need to know from you is why your significant years of work experience will still be a good fit for typical post-MBA positions. And what we mean by that are our students are being hired at MBA entry-level positions, and typically those positions like to see at least 3 to 8 max years of work experience. So that's what the employers are expecting. So the salary or the title that you're being hired for as a post-MBA grad may be more of a lateral transition from where you are now if you have that much experience. So that's something you need to be aware of and need to address in the application, that you're aware of that you understand that, and that's still, and why is this still a good fit for you. So having a previous MBA, I'm assuming it's the other program, yes, we absolutely have admitted students with that in the past. It's really about being able to explain why you're interested in our program specifically and have done research on your post-MBA goals and that it fits with our program well. So that's the main thing, and that's applicable for everyone who's in a situation maybe with more than the average years of work experience or whatever kind of anomaly you feel you might be in the applicant pool. So I think we're getting close to the end of time, but I want to make sure we've answered all the questions. And also, please know that you are welcome to reach out to us if you're listening to this way in the future. We would love to still connect with you. My hair may be a different color, but I'll probably still be around. It was blonde for a long time. I'll probably go back to that next year, but I hope, unless y'all vote and you like the brown better. But anyway, we really enjoy working with you and hope that you will stay in touch, that you will move forward with your Goizueta MBA application, and think about joining our fantastic community, which really is unique in terms of being an excellent business education in a small by design intimate learning environment in a major business city like Atlanta, Georgia. So you really have the best of all worlds, where you're going to know your professors, you're going to know your classmates, and have one-on-one support from your career team, but also all the advantages of being in a major US city. So with that, I will wrap us up and wish you all the best of luck in your application and look forward to seeing you again soon.